And good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me and Mercy at our first part of the four-part webinar series. And before we begin, I would just like to remind everyone to keep yourselves muted and disable your videos to optimize visual and audio quality for everyone. I will introduce Mercy before passing on the presentation to her. Mercy is the founder and CEO of Botlab, an award-winning firm that provides training in data science and cybersecurity. She's trained in GDPR at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, and is a certified IBM cloud professional, as well as a graduate of the Data Science for Business Leader program at Data Incubator Chicago. She has over 9 years of experience working in Kenya and the US, and she's also managing Africa-wide projects. Mercy founded Botlab with a mission to highlight the power of technology. Her goal is to increase the uptake of technology used in developing countries, advocate for data science as a growth tool, and cybersecurity as a risk mitigation tool. To date, her company has trained over 5,000 professionals globally. Mercy is a strong believer in giving back. She's the leading voice on the Women in Tech Kenya platform and has contributed immensely to the advancement of women in STEM. She leads the Nairobi chapter of Women in Data, which is the first chapter in Africa. Women in Data is a global organization headquartered in the US that supports women who are exploring careers in data science. So thank you, Mercy, for being with us. Very happy to have you here and very excited to attend this session. So over to you.
Thank you, Edison. I hope everyone can hear me. So today we'll just talk about increasing visibility for tech startups, and this is also inclusive for any small business that is operating in any country. We will try to make this as interactive as possible. So we will request that you use the chat feature on the app. So when we think about visibility, what comes to mind? For example, in my part, when I think about visibility, I think about how technology firms use different tools, different mediums to communicate, and also to be always on our face about specific products or them as a company. So to you, maybe you can use a chat feature on the app by indicating, when you think about visibility, what are those things, what are those companies or those products in your country that come to mind? Maybe for some, it's, I'll give an example. When I think about Cisco, I think about networks. People who know Cisco very well know them about their network capabilities. They have other products, but because of the way they structured their visibility when they started out, it has really stuck on people when they think about network infrastructure. When you think about printers, most people think about HP. For one reason or another, it's always because of most of the places when they were starting out, or where you worked at the very beginning when they started out, you'll always find a HP printer. Of course, now they have other products, but when you think about that particular product or that particular brand, some of the things that come into mind are usually even your favorite brand, even in the house, or even as a tech firm, even thinking about your phone, thinking about the laptop that you currently use. Sometimes people have a preference to sometimes you have a preference to one thing. So when you think about visibility to you, maybe in the chat section, you can write about the company that you think about, that you know probably from how you work, or as a personal basis, depending on what you have interacted with, and why you think they're visible, or what you think they're visible for. So when it comes to visibility, there are usually two things. Sometimes you'll find a company that will go hum as a company, and there are some that will sell a particular product or service. So for example, if you look at the example I was giving about Cisco, most technology firms, they go for a particular brand as a company. So when you think about IBM, when you think about Cisco, when you think about HP, when you think about Palo Alto, even Apple, most people recognize Apple as a company. When someone sees a MacBook, they remember Apple. When someone sees an iPad, they remember Apple. When people think about an iPhone, they remember Apple. Also, same as Samsung. When people think about Samsung, they see a fridge, they see a machine washer, they see a phone. They see so many things depending on the kind of visibility that the company has decided to advocate for. So some, on the other hand, think about product or a particular service. So for example, like Zoom, most people know Zoom because of the application that is Zoom. Most people know WeChat because of the interactions that they have with the platform. Some people know DocuSign, that is just a small firm, but also they only provide one particular service among many other services, but it's the document signature that made them go big, because most people will send you a document and they will require you to sign it, and most platforms will not allow you to. And if you decided to maybe use the existing platforms, they would always require you to maybe pay for an additional licensing or something like that. But now they just came up with one particular feature that they only sell at the very beginning. So it was DocuSign, where you just sign a particular document. Then there's Calendly. Calendly is used for scheduling meetings. When they started out, that was what they were selling. But right now they have more and more things, but around calendars. And then there's I Love PDF. It's about PDF. It's about splitting PDFs. It's about merging PDFs. It's about signing. It's about editing. It's everything related to PDF. So even the way you name a particular product helps with the visibility. If it's something that is easy for people to remember, and sometimes if you are the owner of a particular software that you're currently selling, then naming can be different from the name of your firm. That way you actually just increase visibility for that particular product. If you are a reseller, then you can ride on the wave of some of the people that you are a reselling partner to. So for example, if you sell products for Cisco or HP or Microsoft, you can look for ways to incorporate that in your narrative, because they're already doing most of the legwork for you. If you search right now for that particular product, you'll probably get it. But now, getting it in your own country could be the challenge, as most of the content that is out there is usually for the first world countries. When you think about what companies do you think have the best visibility strategy, and why? So maybe in the chat, you can also indicate some of the companies that you think have the best visibility strategy. And it could be just a one-liner. So you could probably say that in your country, you have this company and it has great visibility because of X, Y, Z. So like, for example, if you're from Kenya, you probably know about Safaricom. Safaricom has great visibility because of probably their CSR initiatives. When it comes to chocolate, people think about Switzerland. So it's a visibility and a narrative that people push. So according to you, the way you have understood so far, what are those companies or those products that you currently think have the best visibility strategy, and why? And this is just a quote. You've got to find a way to make people know that you're there. So you have to think about, now that you have started a company, or that now that you have been in existence, how do you make sure that people think about you when they see a particular product? Just to give an example, I saw a Twitter thread last week where people were talking about Bata. If you don't know Bata, it's a shoe shop that is global. I think it is in over 200 companies, but most people have always assumed that it is a company that is homegrown, it's local because of their visibility and their narrative. So it actually became a battle that someone had to go discover where it was first started. And everyone in that thread said they thought Bata, the shoe company, was actually a local company based or out of their own countries. So some of the people were shocked by the fact that they had other branches, other factories in other countries, and they pushed that patriotism narrative in the different countries. So it's also back to you. What kind of narrative do you want to push out about your brand? What values do you want to push out about your brand? And why do you exist? Because storytelling is extremely important when it comes to telling people about who you are, and also developing a culture of making sure that the narrative is consistent in the markets that you're targeting. So for example, if you are in Bangladesh and you are trying to target Africa for your products, the question is, what are those things that you can think about that would be symmetric to the same markets that you're trying to target? What narrative are you trying to push? So visibility channels can be in different ways. So one of the things that I have seen work, especially in the tech sector, is fast expertise. This could be by the entrepreneurial profile, that is you as a business owner. Maybe you've worked for different organizations. Your name is known wherever you are working in a particular industry. So people attach your name to certain qualities, certain expertise levels, and that drives your visibility. For some, it's by the team. That's why you see in the newspaper, people put in cuttings or even do press briefings that a particular person has joined a particular firm. Why? It's because there are certain people who go where this team member is. So for your company, thinking about, is it about my expertise as me, or is it by association? So one of the things that you can do, if it's you as a person or as an individual, is to make sure that you are in different places where people can view you and know about your expertise. This could be writing. So you could, if writing is your thing, you could decide to write articles about some of the things that are going on within your industry, because people relate to knowledge with expertise. So the more you're able to break it down, maybe in writing or giving out talks or hosting webinars or being in panels, it drives the visibility not only of yourself, but also for your company, and making sure that the narrative you're pushing is consistent to what the company stands for. So if your company is probably a cybersecurity company, you can think about some of the topics that you can be writing on, or some of the panels that you can be part of. Some of them you can just write to the organizers and tell them that you do X and you'd love to be in a panel. And most of the panels these days, especially in the tech industry, no matter what country, they do not have enough women. So it gives you a proposition to be on the table. And sometimes they're not able to find you, because if they Google you, they'll probably get your LinkedIn profile. So the trick here is to make sure that there is a lot of information about you talking about the subject. And also in each firm, in each article that you write, or in each panel that you talk about, make sure you also talk about some of the things that your company does. So if you are writing an article about penetrative testing that your company is selling, so you are breaking it down to showcase maybe there's a hack that has been lighted on in your country or globally, and you just want to give your opinion as an expert. So one of the ways that you can write is to actually write an article about what your thoughts are, and also include maybe a way that of how your company, and you indicate the company, because you're not writing in your personal terms, you are writing like a third party. So you actually write, for example, at Botlab, we do XYZ, or we use XYZ to be able to prevent this from happening. And in case it happens, then we are able to navigate through by employing XYZ. So this helps the person who is reading even be triggered to find out what company is this, what do they do? And people will start relating your company with that particular narrative that you're trying to push out there. Then the other thing is client base. Who are your clients? Who are those people who are you work with? And this could be horizontal, so it could be those people that you have worked with, or you, by working with, it means they give you business. Sometimes maybe you volunteer to just get your foot into, or you provided a pivot to them, and then maybe they could not afford it. So you also look for those things that would make other people, because with tech, most people think about who are you working with? Who are you partnering with? So sometimes you make sure that you work with the right partners so that you also get visibility. And sometimes when you appear in a panel, you can ask that your logo be put on the poster. It increases your visibility. Client base is also about indicating those people that you have worked with. So for example, if my company has worked with Microsoft, is making sure that people know that we have worked with Microsoft. So you can put that on your website, you can put that on your pitches, you can make sure that as many people know, because there's the credibility level that goes with who you've worked with. If you are just beginning out, one of the things that I would advise on is looking for those people who would be able to take up on what you're trying to sell, and see if they can give you a review, or they can give you a recommendation letter, or they can be able to just give you the expertise. That way you can have them as a reference. And this is very, very important, especially for the companies that are starting out, or if you are launching a particular service that is not in the market. You are looking to sell something, and most people will ask you, who have you worked with? Who have you
Hello, everyone. Let's wait for a few seconds before Mercy makes her way back in. I believe there's a connection error. So thank you for your patience.
Hello, sorry about that. I got disconnected. Let me share my screen again. You can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, okay. Mercy. Thank you.
Okay. So we were talking about client base. So you can actually indicate that if you are maybe in hospitality or targeting the hospitality industry, it's about thinking about those targeting one particular hospital, hotel in that particular segment that you're trying to target, so that when you approach other people, they can be able to referee or they can be able to advocate for you. Then the other thing is value proposition. What solution are you selling into the market? So it's about what value will you add on onto what you're selling. What I've seen is most people, when they sell, immediately sell, you sign the contract, people leave. But most people, most companies are looking for maybe someone who can help them think through about mapping out that particular problem. It's also about looking for what value adds can you give to this particular client. Since you already have an existing relationship, how can you bundle up some of the services that you're providing to them? Especially if you're working with a not so large corporate, sometimes value proposition will bring you about to another solution that you can cross-sell, or it will also bring you about some of the things that maybe you had not thought about in your industry. Then the other thing is about partnerships. Who are you working with? So if you are in a particular industry, for example, cybersecurity, and you're targeting the financial sector, who would they find credible, or who would they find that if you're working with them, they would feel more comfortable to actually open up their closets? So who you work with and how you identify the different partners that you currently have on board is extremely, extremely important. And this could be in different ways. So you could even look for ways to target your particular segments by offering something that is joined together, or writing articles jointly, so that their audience can be your audience and your audience can be theirs. That way you actually have some synergies going on, and being very particular about how the partnership works, and also finding out what is it that you're willing to give and what is specific about what you want to receive. Most people, when they think about partnerships, they think about sponsorship. They think about it in monetary terms. Not everyone is able to give you something in monetary form, but it's important to actually identify what are those things that you're willing to give out. So if you want to work, for example, with a brand, maybe like Facebook, you identify your local representatives and you want to work with them to talk about something that you're trying to push. It is important that in that partnership or the request to partnership, you also indicate what is in it for them. Because most people, if that is not clear, they're not able to engage with you further. And this also helps, especially with visibility. You can look for people who are high brand value or low brand value, but they have a lot of influence within that particular industry that you're looking for. Then the other thing is digital. What does the internet say about your firm, or what does the internet say about yourself if you are selling yourself as a person? And this you can always find by Googling. On the first page, if you don't find a lot of information, then you know there's actually a challenge. There's something that you actually need to push out. And you can also do this if, for example, people search for certain keywords. You can actually sell, for example, cybersecurity Nigeria, and see who actually comes up at the very beginning of your Google search. This will help you think through who are those people who are being found and why you or your company is not on the first page. Then the other thing you can do is networking in groups, making sure that you are in the right group as an individual if you're a business owner, and making sure that you are networking and forming value-based groups of people who align with you, so that they can always advocate for you when they hear of other opportunities or similar opportunities. As maybe to go back to this visibility channels, I'll be keen to read on the chat. What are those things? What are those channels that that you've tried before? And if there are any challenges that you have tried before with your strategy. So for example, if you've tried a certain visibility channel for your business, like expertise, did it work for you, and what didn't work? So that we can all learn from one another. So how do you know where you are? And how do you know where your business is at? So we'll talk about audits, how to do the audits on your own as a business, so that you can see whether your visibility is very clear. Because like we said, if people don't find you, then they don't know you exist. So you have to make sure that the right audience that is looking for you knows that you exist. And the benefits of an audit is just positioning of your business. If people are looking for certain things and they don't find it, it means that you are not positioning your business well. It also helps you think about what are those strengths and weaknesses of your business. You could be so good, but people don't know how good you are. You could also have very good offerings for your business, but maybe you have not aligned to what they're searching for or what the market wants out of your business. Then the other thing is just enables you to get up to speed with the perception, whether positives or negatives about your business. So when do you think about visibility? When you are launching a new product? I know most businesses, especially in the tech sector, came up with new products during the pandemic. So that was also a very good time to think about visibility. Or you also have a product or a service that you're currently offering and you wanted to push for it during this pandemic. So that is the right time to think about visibility. How do you send out the visibility? And sometimes not everyone has the financial muscle to get a PR firm to push their visibility journey. So we help you think through some of the things that you can do on your own, or some of the things that your team can be able to help you think through and actually push. The other thing is re-strategizing your business. A lot of businesses have had to re-strategize during this COVID period. So it's also a good time to think about visibility. You're entering into a new market or a new market. Maybe you are done with local, so you want to go global, or you have started a new product that is going into a new market and you're not sure about the uptake. So you want to increase your visibility so that those people that you're currently targeting can think about you. Then the other thing is all the time, think about visibility all the time. Why is it important? It's important that people think about you all the time because people refer something that is close by. People call or try to remember something that is always close by. If you're too far off or if you're too sporadic, then business will always be sporadic. They will always have a push and pull with you because you are not always on their faces. So some of the considerations that you can think about as you do your visibility is to think about your website, the purpose and use. If it's a static website where you updated in January of 2018 and never went back, then it means it's time to relook into it. And also, who are your main competitors within your market? And who is your target market and the product niche that you're trying to push? What are the product strengths and weaknesses? And are they addressing a particular need that is a particular headache at this particular time? If you sell multiple products, then what you can do is actually create maybe like a cycle of how you want to push different things at different times as compared to bombarding people with a lot of information. Then the other thing is market positioning vis-a-vis your competitors, where you rank within the competitors. And if you're starting out in a market that is already clouded, first order of business is recognizing what are those gaps that all these firms are not fulfilling, and how can you fill that gap with your expertise and structure of your organization, and how do you push out that narrative that you are the one who is filling that particular gap in that market. Then the other thing is your current and anticipated industry trends, especially now that things are really havoc. So you can look for ways to anticipate short term, maybe in the next 3 months, in the next 2 months, and see what you can be able to provide during that particular period. And also your differentiators. This could be pricing, this could be quality of service, this could be fast mover advantage, it could also be customer experience, which is always lacking for a lot of firms. Then to start off the audit, search engine optimization visibility audit, this will help you think through about when you search your business, how do people find you? What are those things that are, when you search that particular subject that you're currently providing a service or a product to, how do people find you? So for example, if I'm selling servers, or if I'm selling hardware equipment, if I write servers in Kenya, or if I write network equipment 2020, will I find anything about it? So these are some of the things that you need to think about. For example, is your site secure? Secure means that it has the HTTPS on your site, and you can get an SSL certificate. If you're not able to afford one, there are some open source ones that you can be able to pull in, and some of them have expiry dates. So make sure you just put a calendar reminder so that you activate it when it expires, because some of them expire after 3 months or after 6 months, depending on which one you pick. And this also helps because some websites or some browsers like Mozilla, like Google Chrome, like Safari, refuse to open websites that do not have an SSL. So if SSL is just a security certificate. So if you see, most people will probably turn down after they see that error where it says this website is not secure. Are you sure you want to open it? Most people will say no. So you end up losing a lot of the customers who would want to come to your site because of that. Then the other thing is, does your site render correctly no matter what size of your website? So most people have optimized their websites for desktop, but they have not really optimized for mobile. Yet depending on where your customers are looking through you, you'll be able to know whether you're optimized or not. And I'll show you some tools that you can use at the end of the slides so that you can also understand what are those places, or whether your site is actually optimized and easy to use if someone is using mobile. Then the other thing is, do you have a search engine optimization plugin? This helps you plug in some of the keywords that you have on your site, so that when you Google something specific, it's making sure that if you search on Google, you'll find your website and they will find the particular page that has that information. This also means that you have to be very visible on your website by also changing the content. And if you have a blog section, it's pushing out a lot of content so that the other parts remain constant, but the expertise level, if you are in panels, if you are on Facebook, if you are doing a live, a particular something, people can be able to view. And also remember, there are different ways people learn. There are people who like to read, there are people who like to watch short videos, and there are people who like pictures. Making sure you use the right strategy that you're comfortable with is extremely important. So if you like videos, make sure you have the videos on YouTube. If you like images, make sure you accrue social media sites that love images like Instagram or Pinterest. If you are a blend of everything, then you use all the tools that you think you and your team are able to increase visibility for. That way, if someone is searching, they can get as much information as they can about your firm, and being very clear about what you're offering and the value adds that they'll get when working with you. Then the other thing is your metadata. This is just how you index some of the, like the posts, for example, the titles, the descriptions of your websites, and also image tags. This is also important when you are posting on social media, as it helps if someone is just looking for something random and they're able to find it. Sometimes you see when someone is posting about something on social media, but you find the people who are finding you through Google, if you have Google Analytics. So you'll be able to see how people are finding you. And you'll see that the titles and descriptions of how you put them is extremely important, because it increases how the Google algorithm is able to place you. Then the other thing is, does your site use an XML sitemap? This is just to improve your page's indexing and crawlability, meaning that the algorithm can go through your site as easily as possible and recommend to people who are looking for certain things. Then content audit. So this is for anyone who is thinking about text or images, or text, images, or videos. So if you want to push out content to sell expertise, think about who is your buyer persona and what are the use cases. So for example, if you are selling cybersecurity products, who are those people who make that decision? It could be cybersecurity officers or CISOs in the offices. So it's thinking about what could be the problems that they're currently encountering at this particular time, and how do you make sure that you actually sell the value and look like you are actually communicating to them directly. So understanding also where you will find them is extremely important. Is extremely important because this determines the channel that you decide to use. Do you want to write it on Facebook? Do you want to write it on LinkedIn? Do you want to write it on Medium? Where do you want to write it, and where is your audience? Then does content flow the themes of being helpful, valuable, and actionable? If it's just for information purposes, it's also important, but sometimes it's helping someone think through and analyze themselves. So for example, if you're selling a cybersecurity product and you are writing an article, it's important to help people think about what are those things that they can do based on the content that they have read. Not everyone is able to deduce the content and actually break it down. So you helping them think through it continues to cement the narrative that you are an expert, because not only are you giving them information, you are also helping them think through how do they break it down. And then also it's also using words that are meaningful to your audience and what they will search for and what are their questions or what are their pain points. So for example, if, like in Kenya, hacking is a big headache for most industries in financial markets. And so is Nigeria. In Bangladesh, there is also a lot of that, and also data protection issues. So it's about thinking, since you already know your market and the product you are trying to sell, it's finding out what are those keywords that are important in your industry. And I'll show you a tool that you can use to find out what words to use, so that when you're writing an article, you use those words. When you post on a particular blog, your blog can be found. Or if you are writing an article, they can be found. And then your landing pages, do they show specific products or services? Do not be too general. Be very specific about what you're selling. And I always say that the website is a good place because you do not have limit as to what you can say, but look for a way to strategically say it without being too wordy, especially when you have a lot of products that you're selling for different audiences. And then the other thing is, if you decide to write, if you decide to write, be very candid. If the article is too long, then it means you really have to be very good at storytelling so that you can capture the attention of those people who are reading. If you are not very good at storytelling, then you can limit your words to around 300 to 500 words. That takes around less than 5 minutes for most people to read. And then your content should always correlate with a step in your buyer journey. So making sure that you have really understood about what your buyer journey is about, and we'll explore this in our next course next Monday. So it's about thinking about who is your buyer and how does that journey look like, so that in case you're pushing out content, it is correlating with the services that you are providing. And if someone was able to ask, you can be able to have a walkthrough journey of onboarding them, depending on how you view the lead. Is it a qualified lead or is it not a qualified lead? Then the other thing is to make sure that your content includes engaging visuals. People like seeing. If it's too wordy, you lose people. You can use, one of the tricks that I use is I use some of the pictures that I take of nature or at events to incorporate in my writing. That way, you feel like you take a break, because when people see it's a long article, they get bored. So you have to look at some of the content pages that some of the visuals that you can add in your content. If it's a video, you can decide maybe to use a doodle where you just narrate and you draw it. Sometimes people use different things. Some people decide to have themselves explain the particular concept in front of a camera, maybe for less than 5 minutes. For some people, it's about showcasing a PowerPoint slide and narrating and explaining things depending on the video, depending on the PowerPoint. So choose what works for you and choose whatever you feel you have a lot of strength in. Don't look for a particular line that you know you will struggle with. If you are a writer, then that already tells you what arm you're on. If you like watching videos, or you like, yes, if you like watching videos, it means you can be very good at analyzing a good video. If you like reading through images, then it tells you how you'll be able to even structure, since you're already a consumer. Then use personalization as possible, because the moment you use personalization as often as possible, you will find people relating to you. You'll find people who will read your content, they will subscribe to your content because they feel you feel their anger or their pain point, or you feel their problem that they're trying to solve wherever they work. Then this is just a sample of a visibility audit and plan. So some of the issue you can highlight, maybe when you look at your social media platforms, you can see maybe your engagement is very low. So you can say maybe your LinkedIn or your Facebook or your Twitter or YouTube engagement is down by this particular %. So your action plan is to do more discussion and updates in relevant groups on LinkedIn, or is to push more content that the content you like. If also remember that different platforms push for different things. So there's certain platforms that push for videos more than they would articles. There's some, if you reroute them to your website directly, they will reduce your visibility. So understand also the platform that you want to engage on. So if, for example, like we were saying about LinkedIn, it's increasing more discussion, posting more, tagging more people, looking for brands that you can work with so that you increase your engagement. And then maybe you can say increase LinkedIn engagement by this percentage at least each week. And then you can put a timeline. You can do this for some of the things that are core to your business. And some of these issues and the percentages, depending, like for example, if you are looking at social media, the social media insights page on Facebook and Twitter have statistics that can show you where to look. And then if it's on your website, you'll have to integrate it with Google Analytics. That way you can be able to see how many people are coming to your website, what's the bounce rate, how many people, what pages within your site are people looking at, and are they moving to other pages within your website, or are they just going to home and then they leave? If they are going to home and then they leave, the question is why, and how do you make sure that on home you have all the content that someone will be triggered to actually check on another page within your website. So what next? As we are concluding the session, I would want you to think about your visibility scope. What are those things that we are approaching October? What is that one thing that you want to work on your website or on your business? So you narrow down, maybe it's your website, maybe it's your social media visibility. So you conduct an audit of the scope, as I have showed before, and see what are those strengths that you currently have and what are those weaknesses that you currently have, and identify what you want to work on, depending on your understanding of your industry and understanding of your industry and understanding of your page. So that will help you push through and have a very solid action plan on how you want it. And it doesn't have to be too formal. You can make it as informal as you want and do as many trials as possible during your journey so that you understand your strengths and how to bank on those strengths. Then the other thing is to create a solid plan, and it can be formal, where you actually have an Excel sheet, you put in all the details and you can be able to track, and then monitor and reiterate the loop. So monitor means using social media analytic tools. Most of them are free. So on your Facebook, there's a place called Insights. You can be able to see your engagement, your percentages of each post, of how your page is growing and whether it's going up or not. And then also see each week, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve per week? So some of the tools that I mentioned, one of them is Sprout Social. It really helps with social media. So you can actually integrate all your social media platforms on Sprout, and it's not the only one. You can even look for others that are out there. And they also have different offerings depending on how your business looks like. If you are a B2B business, then there are different visibility strategies that would work for you as compared to a business that is business to consumer directly, where you're selling a tech thing to multiple people, and they could be, you bank on volumes. So for example, like the way Google sells Google for business emails as a package. So that is a mass market product. So their visibility strategy and one where it is just B2B is very different. So it's also understanding how do you correlate also with the other people. Then the other thing is Google Analytics. Make sure that your website has Google Analytics, and you can, at the click of a button, check and understand what these terms mean. And also Google My Business. Remember, every time when people search, the first place they search is usually on Google. So make sure you have Google My Business integrated to your website and to your site, and that it is updated. And also use the Google My Business tool to actually increase your visibility by being very specific and being specific about the products or services that you currently offer, because it increases your visibility, especially if you put like a pin. It helps people who are looking for somewhere using Google Maps, they'll find you. If you put in certain keywords in your description, when someone is looking for you, they'll be able to find you. And then there is a word tracker. The word tracker is the one I was talking about, words, where you use, if you want to find out what keywords are people using when they talk about certain thing in cybersecurity. So for example, if you want to understand cybersecurity in Kenya, what are those words that people are using? You can use a word tracker. There are other alternatives out there that you can also use. And then Think with Google is also one of them that also helps you think through about your visibility and how people are able to search you. There's so many Google products and Google features that can help small businesses, especially to increase your visibility, because you remember the first page, very few people even search the third page go to the third page after they search, unless you're very frustrated. But most people, after the first page, they don't find what they're looking for, they change the terms that they're using to search. So making sure that you're on the first page is critical. And another thing, when you're writing your articles or when you're posting content, especially on social media, make sure you use the year, because that really helps bring you to the top. So for example, I can write cybersecurity trends in 2020. That will really increase my visibility, because it will bring you on top of the old articles, because when the algorithm is looking, it's also looking at the publishing date. And then the other thing is Yoast. Yoast is for search engine optimization. So you can just add it on top of your site as a plugin, and then it helps you put in keywords that you'll have used using the word tracker to increase your visibility. And again, there are other alternatives to Yoast. To conclude, before we answer any questions, I just want to say, don't confuse visibility with credibility. So whatever you sell, make sure you can stand by it. So if you say you do X, make sure that you have pipelines within your business that can be able to handle it. If you say you are able to provide a particular service, if you are in cybersecurity and you say that a firm can be able to do an audit with you, make sure you have the right team. Maybe you can make sure you have receipt that you can back it up, because just the way you, at the same rate with which you increase your visibility, if negative publicity can also take you down. So make sure that whatever you advocate for and you say that you do, that you can actually back it up with actions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mercy, for your presentation. I definitely think it's very important for the IT companies in our network to understand the importance of messaging, clear messaging, credibility, SEO, all the things are integrated. I'll open the floor to questions. If you may have, you may raise your hand. I'll allow you, the participants, to unmute yourselves to pose a question. So the floor is yours. Please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourselves. Any questions? I will also launch the poll. Hold on, seems like it's not working. In the meantime, okay, Dami, we have a question. How often should a company perform a visibility audit? Mercy?
You can perform a visibility audit as often as you want, but it's recommended that you do it every maybe 3 months, depending on the product, so that you can understand whether you are reaching out to their intended audience, and also whether you're selling, because the aim of visibility is also to sell. So every other month, keep evaluating to see whether you are actually selling to the demographic or whether you are reaching to the demographic. So sometimes if you are looking for leads and you're not getting them from your visibility, it means it's time to make a change. If you were receiving a lot of leads and then you don't receive them anymore, it means that it's also time to review. So there are certain factors that you can incorporate so that you make sure that you're always reviewing your audit to make sure that the people who you're trying to reach actually reach.
Hi, do we have any more questions? Okay, Ms. Abudu. When trying to improve visibility in a foreign company, are there specifics one can do? For instance, a Nigerian company looking to penetrate the US market.
Yes. First of all, is to think about what are those pain points for your targeted market in a foreign country. What are those things? What are their pain points? Identifying that, looking for groups that are high value groups where if you publish anything or if you write anything, they'll think you are an expert and they will not mind the difference in geographical scope. Is also understanding the problem. You'll find, I know so many people who are working remotely for different countries, but it's usually where you sell yourself as an expert. I've seen it's harder for a company to sell itself out there. People follow the expertise of the person. So if you look for pages or websites where your targeted clientele is, if it's in Reddit, and answering those questions that are in your market, and making sure that they see you, they ask you questions, and you're always on their face. And also making sure that you work with different people to push for specific things. So you can look for partners who you can work with to introduce you. I know there are certain companies that help companies based out of the US to actually set their foot or get paperwork to actually get even business out of the US. So it's actually looking for those people who would, and it's also publishing, looking for people who you can work with together and give credibility, because there's also a lot of referral that goes into some of this market. So you just need to get one client who can be able to refer you to other people, or making sure that you advertise to them and you target them. Think about it. If you are, like right now, I've seen a lot of adverts of US-based companies pushing down certain products. So you can actually just make sure that your visibility is very clear, what you're selling is very clear, and then smartly use data to advertise to the right people that you feel would give you leads, as compared to having a broadcast blast that will not generate a lot of insights.
Thank you, Mercy. Do we have any more questions from the floor? Felix, could you try to launch the poll from your side? Seems like I'm having technical issues with launching the poll from my account. I will open the floor again to the questions. Please feel free to type in the chat box or to unmute yourselves.
Okay, to launch the poll, right? Let me try.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you try to click on the poll and see if it launches? So Grace has a question. As a startup, I'm wondering how to get a company to work with us. I suppose that's in a question form. Mercy, do you have an answer to that?
So for example, I'll give you an example. Like I'll give you an example of how I work. So to get jobs, how to how do you make sure that you're what to their digital agency, and I told them about the gap that's in the market, and that I wanted to work with them to be able to host a session so that we could be able to come. So they were actually even interested in hosting one in Kenya, but they had not gotten a partner. So it ended up being a win-win for both of us. So I would say identify those companies that you think are important to what you're trying to drive, and see what you can write to them about and give them a value proposition. I learned at the very beginning, I'll just write and say, I want to do X. Is it possible for us to do X? And it did not work. But what I learned worked is you being also in their shoes. Since you're the one asking, you say you want to do X, you want to achieve Y, and in return, they'll be able to gain Z. Because you see, a lot of companies these days are on tight sponsorship budgets, but they're willing to work with you. And if you can be able to see the bigger picture and see how this bigger picture will also bring you revenue, then it makes sense for you to actually ask. And don't be shy, you can ask small companies, ask big companies, but also do your homework thoroughly so that whatever you ask is actually in line with their visibility. So if you see, like LinkedIn was trying to come into Kenya, and they had really been pushing the Africa narrative, where they wanted to have more people sign up for LinkedIn from Africa. So it went hand in hand, because they're big in South Africa, but not as big as in Kenya and in Nigeria. So me propositioning it with them gave them an entry point of also them getting a bonus of not having to manage the logistics, of not having to manage everything that they needed to do to have that session. So it's understanding what is it that you want to offer to them, and also making sure that if they Google you, they will see that you have done other things before. Because most people, before they respond, they always go to Google to find out what can they get. Who is this company and what are they asking for? And can they be able to achieve this? Will it hurt our brand? Those kind of things, yeah.
Thank you, Mercy. I will invite everyone to answer the poll that has just been launched. We still have a couple more who have yet to answer. And this is the last 5 minutes of questions. If you have, please post them now. Okay, I don't see any questions. Phyllis, how is the poll doing on your end?
Hi, Edison. So far, we have 16 out of 23 responded so far. So we have how many more people? 4 plus 7. So we have 7 people, and I think they're still responding.
Okay, great. Do we have any more questions? This is your time to ask anything regarding visibility, because on the next session, we'll move on to a different topic. Or Mercy, would you like to give a preempt into what will be discussed next time?
Thank you, Edison. I was going to suggest that.
Yeah, the next session will talk about customer centricity, especially for the technology firms. It's about understanding how do you incorporate customer experience and influence culture centricity within your organization, and also the service-oriented business. The key measurement of firms is delivering and exceeding customer expectations. So how do you do that? How do you align your business, especially if maybe you're a contractor or you're a reseller, or actually pushing your own product? How do you exceed customer services? Because with tech, it's always about referral. When people think about how you joined Facebook, someone told you about it. There's a very big chance someone told you about it and you felt like you're missing out. Think about Zoom. It's that people were actually talking about it, and that's how you actually signed up and hosted your first meeting. So think about how you've been treated, maybe if it's your phone. What are those things that people are talking about the particular product, and how is that important? So the next session will be about how do you build that culture, not only internally, but also externally to your clients. That way, because we always say, it is customers who are loyal to you who actually sell your product for you, because immediately they like your product and how you've handled them. Then some of them will go write a review online, some of them will go tell other people about it, and this increases your customer acquisition points. It's actually harder to retain customers than it is to acquire customers. So making sure that you retain your customers is extremely important, especially for a small businesses that is growing. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mercy. I think this session has really been encapsulating a lot of the things that we have been reminding our women-owned businesses: messaging, narrative, branding, and SEO. So thank you for bringing that all together in a very coherent presentation. I'm very much looking forward to the next session next week. We will also be taking place at the same time on the same day, Monday. Thank you for your time, Mercy, and thank you all for joining us today. I look forward to seeing you for the next session. And have a great week, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.